To kneel. We're being loud. We're changing the world.
Then we're going to scream louder and louder, and we're not going to stop until something is done.
Justice! Now!
Let's get it right, man. Today is the day.
He did what?
That changed the world.
Daddy changed the world.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
Welcome to a special episode of That's My Story. Tonight we're doing a Wednesday night edition. As if you may have seen my Facebook, I noted that we are dipping our chicken tender twice tonight. So we got two episodes coming to you guys this week. Starting off tonight on a Wednesday, our Black Lives Matter, our special episode. I go by the name of Jerry Midas Hardison. Joining me, as always, my illustrious co-host. To my left is the singer extraordinaire, entertainer from the Honeycomb, also the wife of world-renowned bassist from Earth, Wind, and Fire, Miss Shelly Clark, and the legendary saxophonist, producer, arranger of the chairman of the board, Ken Knox. How you guys doing this evening?
Fine. Everything's great. Thank you.
All right. And we just give our audience a few minutes to get in and get situated and settled. And guys, drop us a note as usual. Let us know where you're chiming in from. Give us some hearts, give us some likes, and don't forget about our YouTube page, the official chairman of the board YouTube page. So when we do drop our content, you will be the first to be notified. So guys, I will say this before we get started. This has been a topic that we have been planning to cover for quite some time. And as we know in this industry of music, entertainment, things of that nature, it's all about timing. So we wanted to wait until the proper time to do this particular special episode. And we felt like after having Ray Parker Jr. on last week and discussing the Detroit riots, that now would be the appropriate time to tackle a matter such as this. And we understand that it's a sensitive topic. There's potential confusion when it comes to Black Lives Matter and things like that. So tonight we wanted to just come before you and utilize our platform to have a discussion, an open discussion, of course, with you guys at home, so we can make an attempt to educate. And we would be remiss if we did not use our opportunity to do so. At the basis, the foundation of all of us, we do music, and music brings us all together, which is great. But at the same time, we owe it to you all, owe it to ourselves, owe it to our children and everyone else in the world to do our part to bring about the change that we constantly, that we so desire, that we're constantly seeking. So,
That's right.
All right, everybody in and situated? It's looking good on my end. Okay, so with the phrase Black Lives Matter and what that means, I'm just going to open up with a couple of things. First, we're going to cover some topics tonight, all right, as far as Black Lives Matter. So first is we want to talk about how the country is continually dealing with systematic racism. That's going to be first and foremost. Then we want to address the confusion behind the phrase Black Lives Matter and what that really means, and also we want to encourage you all to have open dialogue with us throughout tonight's show. There will be a segment where we do question and answer, but we encourage you to have dialogue and drop your comments. We just want to do a little house cleaning at first and just say, please come from a place of love and positivity with your comments and with your questions, because us speaking for all of us on this side of the screen, that is the same place that we're coming from. We want to lead with love. We want to all leave here knowing knowing a little more than we did when we logged on today. All right.
All right.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So now, if we were to first of all, the topic of police brutality in our country, it's been a reoccurring thing. It seems as of late, especially with technology and the usage of cell phones and capturing footage and sharing with social media. But if you guys would go back approximately about 28 years ago in April of 1992, there were 4 policemen. Three of them were white. And let's see, 3 of them were white. They were acquitted of the savage beating of the motorist Rodney King at that time. It was the first police incident that was caught on video and that went nationwide as well as worldwide. The gentleman who captured that footage at that time from his camcorder, from his apartment window on his balcony. His name was George Holliday. He's a white gentleman. Mm-hmm. And what I found in just preparing for this show, that Mr. George Holliday actually tried to contact the police department on several different occasions. He went by, he called, and coincidentally, no one at the police department wanted anything to do with his video. So that's what led to him going to KTLA television, and therefore you have that video that was released on an international scale. So before then, things of that nature were, for lack of a better term, were swept under the rug, so to speak. So that was our first time ever seeing something of that magnitude in a visual format. So just to give you a little backstory about Mr. Rodney King. Mr. Rodney King was on parole at the time for a robbery. He led police on a high-speed chase through LA. When they finally stopped him, he was ordered out of his car, kicked and beaten with batons for 15 minutes with over a dozen officers, watching from the sidelines, so to speak. He suffered a fractured skull, broken bones, and teeth, along with permanent brain damage. Okay, the 4 officers were charged with excessive use of force, and a year later, a jury of 9 white, 1 Latino, and 1 Asian found these officers not guilty. However, two officers were eventually fired, and 2 served 30 months in prison for violating civil rights. All 4 have since moved out of California. The chief of police at that time, Daryl Gates, was forced to resign the same year. And the fury over the acquittal and the incident led to riots in the city of LA. Less than 3 hours later in South Los Angeles, the riots raged on for 5 days straight. Also fueled by racial and economic inequality. It ignited the national conversation about economic disparities, including unemployment, drugs, gang activity, violent crimes, and use of police force on people of color. So even with that particular video, we witnessed a verdict that said otherwise. And when it came to the riots, residents they set fires. There was looting. They destroyed stores, shops, restaurants, and property said to be accumulative damages over $1 billion. And some folks were also pulled from their cars and beaten. In that same month, a Black girl was killed by a Korean store owner in South LA. She was accused of stealing orange juice. And her name was Latasha Harlins. And it turned out that Latasha actually tried to pay for the juice. And pretty much there was just a smack on the wrist for the store owner, just a $500 fine. So at this time, you can see the nation was dealing with a lot of bias against people of color, and LAPD being the occupying force. Okay, so oddly enough, police drove by the rioting areas and they kept moving. They didn't want any parts of that. The 911 calls went unanswered. Then you had the Reginald Denny situation. So, you had Good Samaritans who helped pull after Reginald Denny was pulled from his truck initially. He was pulled from his truck and beaten, and you had some Good Samaritans who stepped in and put him back in a vehicle and then drove him to the hospital where he could receive treatment. Yep. Eventually, the black mayor at that time, Tom Bradley, and Mayor Pete Wilson, they called the National Guard. On the third day of the riots, Rodney King, even though he was still beat up and whatnot, he stood with his lawyer and made a public appeal to stop all of the fighting. Hence, you have the infamous phrase, "Can we all just get along?" And that one little saying echoed all the way across the world.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. So for a little more backstory, folks. So 50 people were killed in the riots, some shot by LAPD and the National Guard. You have 2,000 that were injured, 6,000 blacks and Latinos arrested for various crimes. You got 1,000 buildings destroyed, 2,000 Korean businesses, and the city was given a curfew. All this, and still we have the same issues 28 years later. They say ain't nothing changed but the year, huh? Huh, Shelly?
That's right.
Yeah, nothing changed but the year. However, the whole world has gotten involved this time, of course, with most recently Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, which we will get into that a little later. But the good thing about the world becoming so aware this time is there's a sense, the feeling in the air that change could be closer than what we've ever seen, you know? So we know there with these situations comes a lot of outrage, a lot of pain, collective anger and trauma. Now, how blacks feel, they are potentially living in a country where their lives are constantly under threat. So in order to know where we are going, we must understand where we have been and where we come from, what has changed, if anything, and what hasn't. So, Mr. Ken Knox, you lived in Detroit during the time of the 1967 riots, which started between the black communities and the police department. Yeah. Won't you let our viewership at home let us know what you experienced at that time and what you saw?
Well, Detroit for years had just like LA, had a problem with the police. And I guess Ray Parker Jr. experienced what the police would do to you. There was a segment of the police force called the Big Four. There was 3 detectives and a driver, a regular uniform driver. But those guys would stop you for anything, and like Ray said, he was on his way to school and they and they had a history of harassing African Americans. So on July 23rd, 1967 is how the riot started, because they call them blind pigs, but it's better known, they're better known as a after hours joint. So there was a party for 2 Vietnam veterans that night.
Okay.
So the Detroit police came up there and raided the place. They arrested 87 people. 43 people were killed during the riots. The riots were so bad that on the second day, President Lyndon B. Johnson sent in the troops. Yes, I remember that so well, because what was happening was there was tanks all in the, coming down the streets, my street and stuff like that. And, people were tired of being treated like that, from the police, so they rebelled, they start rioting, looting. And even though a lot of the businesses were black, they were still looted. But then someone came up with the thing, but let's start putting a sign in the window that would say "Soul Brother." That was supposed to protect you. Right. And I remember it well, and I think it lasted like almost a week. There was curfews. I never heard about a curfew. Right. When at night, if you look up in the sky, you can see red tracer bullets flying all over the place. It was like a war zone.
Yeah.
So I can imagine LA was the same way. It was like a war zone. And in fact, we might have some footage of that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
After I was shot, I just fell to, right to the pavement because I didn't know how many shots were coming off after that.
Were you bewildered or angry or what?
I don't think it's right for my people to act the way that they're acting. This is all that I can say about the thing because we're fighting one war now in Vietnam and we're losing, as it is. So, I mean, why should we come back here and fight a war among ourselves?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible, what he said,
Yeah.
Why? I mean, because the Vietnam War was going on, and then coming back and fighting amongst ourselves and tearing up our property.
Yeah. 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 What are your feelings is in regards to the riots and how they occurred and how sometimes that's potentially used as an attention getter is definitely not a problem solver, but a lot of times the rioting is used as an attention getter.
Yeah, it is. I mean, unemployment was high during that year, during the 60s, and people wanted things, they needed things, and I guess the best way they could get it was to go get it out this place. I don't, I don't say I agree with that. I can't agree with that, because the next week that store is no longer there where you were getting your food from.
Right. Yeah. And we kind of said in the green room, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about the Tiger Stadium, but in the green room, we just said we understand how the rioting occurs. It's out of frustration a lot of times. Is it right? It's almost last hope. We're not getting justice in a lot of instances through going through the system. So like any person, any normal person that gets frustrated, or collective of people, you get frustrated and you don't have any. You feel like things are unfair. You're not getting a fair shake. That's usually what is resorted to, and no, we don't agree with that because that doesn't accomplish much in the big scheme of things, and a lot of times we end up hindering our own community's growth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As far as Tiger Stadium, I mean, there was like maybe 40,000 people at this game.
Mm-hmm.
So when after the game was over with. So we're coming down the street, and just like the first picture that was shown, there was people all in the streets, and I'm thinking, what the heck is going on? I mean,
Yeah.
And my mother comes out and says, "Boy, get in this house." And I'm saying, "What's going on?" I thought it was a parade,
right?
Because I saw so many people.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Boy, get in this house. There's a riot going on." So, like a good boy, I got on in the house.
You got to listen to mom.
I had to listen to mom, and it was just terrible just to see this and experience that. And so, that was my experience of the Detroit riots.
Okay. Now, Shelly, tell us a little bit, and us and those at home, a little bit about, how you grew up as a biracial child of a Black father and a white Jewish mother. Tell us a little bit about your experiences.
Okay, thanks, Midas.
Yes, ma'am.
There were laws passed. Then I'm going to cut to another subject for a minute. There were laws passed in probably the 1800s that I think it was to forbid slaves and white people to interact with each other, men and women and what have you. And that law was called the miscegenation law. Mm-hmm. And so it forbade marriages, if you were even trying to be a pastor, trying to marry people, you would be arrested.
Wow.
And yeah, it was kind of deep. That it went back that far.
Mm-hmm.
But first, I wanted to make mention that this show is very timely because
Yes.
today you mentioned Latasha Harlan's being a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Today happens to be her birthday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the show is very timely. I believe
Wow.
she would have been like 42 years old.
Okay. Wow, that's crazy.
And she got a lot of shout outs and mentions on Tupac's album.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
On his video, Keep Your Head Up.
Keep your head up. Yes.
It starts out dedicated to Latasha Harlan's.
Awesome.
And also maybe in 5 songs, Thug's Mansion, White Man's World. So he was
advocating,
very sympathetic to not only her but other children that were victims of the death of people like that. I think we may have a picture of Latasha Harlan's, and
that would be great.
The woman that killed her, a Korean store owner.
Okay.
Tensions were high. That's Jun Da-soo. Her family owned a liquor store, as did many Korean families in that period, which created tension because they wouldn't give loans to Black people in their own community so they could open a store. But the Koreans all had stores, all of them. And so the kids were warned not to go into those stores unless they really had to, because they knew the owners would be, get out of here. We don't want you here. Get out. So it so happened, though, that she went into the store with her money. They found the money in her hand when she was dead on the floor. And of course, they captured that also with video. But anyway, so getting back to what you asked me about being biracial, there were some states that you would arrest you if you married a Filipino, Native American Indian. And we had laws here. I believe they didn't become legal to interracial marriages didn't become legal until possibly 1967. That wasn't that long ago.
Right.
So I was always thinking, when are they going to arrest these guys, that had, but they made it through. I noticed that I didn't get bullied except from teachers at the school when my mother would show up and they that she was a white woman and say, she would say, I'm Michelle Clark's mother. And then they would go, wait, but no, you can't be that, And so I actually had to ask her to stop coming to the school because they got resentful. They didn't understand and they didn't want to. It was too early for that kind of thing in America. And so my father would come to the school. And after that, I didn't really have that many problems. The only thing I did have was when, of course, we grew up show business children. So my mother had to travel with me. And during the Cab Calloway touring, when we were down south, she couldn't be seen with me. So she would cry all the time because we would have to have these secret meetings. And if they put me in the car, I'd have to go on the trunk because she would have been arrested to be seen with a Black child.
Right.
So, thank God the U.S. Supreme Court struck all that down. Like I said, in 1967, that was Loving versus Virginia. And there's actually a real cool movie that they did in 2016. I don't know if you saw it, but it's the story of the Lovings and how they had to go to the Supreme Court just to be married.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were they out of Virginia?
Yes.
Yes. Great story.
Okay. I had to check that out.
Right.
Yeah,
Loving versus Virginia. And they had a Jewish lawyer who helped overturn that law. And I believe his last name was Cohen, but he was from the ACLU and assigned that case. And thank God, they still didn't want to accept it, but at least you couldn't get arrested in the middle of the night, the way the Lovings were.
Right.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah.
And so So there you have it, but back to Latasha. As you can see, nothing has really changed in a way but the year. That woman got, like you said, she got a slap on the wrist.
Right.
$500 fine and some community service.
Yeah, for taking a life. So pretty much is saying that life is only worth $500.
$500. And she was, I want to say, almost half the reason why LA was set on fire.
Oh,
because
yeah.
They had Rodney and then they had her. And then that was so back to back that do we have a picture of that?
There we go.
Or a video of that, Tazz? We might have. I
think we do.
Okay.
Is it the one of Rodney? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
So
all right. Wow.
That coupled with that Latasha incident, first of all, they burned down all the Korean stores first. And they stood in front of the one that she was killed in, and they shouted her name, Latasha Harlins. And I think they got that store first.
Right.
And then the rest of them just fell. There is a Korean liquor store near where I live, and I'm friends with the guy. He's real cool, but he said that in that period he was on top of his roof with a gun.
I could imagine.
And
I've seen pictures of that.
Right.
Families were guarding their stores.
Right.
Yeah.
And he said that he and his whole family were up there. So. Okay, very interesting stuff. Anyway.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Yeah, and that's all great insight, and that's great that you mentioned Latasha so much, because things like that, they stick with us. They stick with us, and for a young African American girl's life to be taken, and the consequence for that is just a $500 fine. Then you can understand how the rioting and things come about, although we do not condone that as to be a proper solution in progressing forward. So, Ken, thank you. Shelly, thank you for sharing your experiences with us. And I think our special guest is about ready to join us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us tonight out of pretty much our backyard. Go ahead.
I need to tell you who's going to be on tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. See, I'm so excited. I just can't hide it.
So listen, tomorrow, is our regularly scheduled. That's my story, and we have the fantastic songwriter, producer, singer, Mr. Ron Dante. So let's tune in. Have everybody tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We got
11 p.m. for all of our international following over in the UK.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right.
Let's go.
All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, out of Charlotte, North Carolina, we have activist Jabril Huff joining us today. And for those of you at home who may not know what an activist is a person who campaigns to bring about political and social change. What's up, Jabril?
Hey, Jabril. Hey, Jabril.
You doing all right today?
I maintain it, man. Just got home.
Good. Yeah. Thank you for joining us, and it's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, man.
Well, we'll get right into it, man. So give us a little background about your activism. Also, tell us and the viewers at home what Black Lives Matters means to you.
Well, I'll start with my activism.
Okay, sure.
My activism started through writing, through expressing myself through writing to the newspaper and responding to different events that was going on. This was probably like in the late 80s, early 90s. That's how I was kind of crafting my voice. I never was one to want to speak in school, in class, nothing like that. But as I began to write speak out on social and racial issues, political issues. I began to craft my voice and find my purpose.
Mm.
And then 9/11 came. Prior to 9/11, I was active. Like I said, I was mainly a writer, somewhat involved in some things that were going on. But 9/11 came.
Mm.
And, in the Muslim community, most Muslims were running scared. To be honest with you, they were running scared. They were apologizing for stuff they didn't do.
Right.
And I was like, nah, this ain't what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
I came out and I started, I went right in the fire. I mean, I had people to meet me on the street corner because here I am, white complexion, Muslim, talking about George Bush, about the threats. I mean, I was talking while the buildings were still smoking. I mean, there's still smoke coming from the towers.
Yeah.
And I was on the radio, I was on television, I was on the street corner, I was holding rallies against the war and against attacks on civil liberties. So I just kind of got out there raw like that. And that's how I began to craft my voice. And one thing led to another.
Mm-hmm.
And I just continued. And before you know it, I look back, I'm like, wow, I've been involved in a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of how I got started. Once you find your purpose in life, I think a lot of things come easy. A lot of people are shy about speaking about this and that, but once you find your purpose, and for me, a lot of that was my religion.
Sure.
And along with that, I've always spoke out on racial issues because my background is interracial. I've been biracial too. If I was born in 71 instead of 66.
Right.
So, and that's my upbringing. So
Yeah.
I've always been close to that. And but as you get older, you build your confidence and you find your purpose. So that's kind of how I got started. As far as the Black Lives Matter, what it means to me, it means the folks that have been left behind, people that have been killed, a lot mainly young Black men.
Yeah.
Their lives matter as well.
Yes.
You very seldom, if ever, see a cop get arrested, much less convicted of killing anyone, especially a Black man.
Right.
And when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying white lives don't matter or Asian or Muslim or anybody else. We're just saying these lives matter too. I mean, someone was like, why do you have a Black Lives Matter? I'm like, well, if Black lives already mattered, there wouldn't be a movement or a need to say that. Just like if Black history was already being taught in school, there wouldn't be a need for Black History Month.
Right. Absolutely.
So, we're filling in the blanks here. Now, as far as the organization goes, the organization to me is totally a different entity. They have their own agenda, they have their own agenda that's not always what you may think it is. They have a strong LGBT transgender thing. You'll never go to a Black Lives Matter rally and not hear someone be shouting out "Trans Lives Matter." Okay, I'm not saying they don't.
Right.
But nobody trans just got shot. A Black man.
Right.
How can we just say Black Lives Matter? Why you got to pull your agenda into it? So when people say there's an agenda being played, there is, but that doesn't mean that we can't support Black Lives Matter. That doesn't mean I won't go to a march, and that doesn't mean I won't wear a shirt that says Black Lives Matter. But what Black Lives Matter to me is Black folks' lives matter just as much as everything else, and I will fight to the death for that.
Very true.
But we also have to understand, like I said, organizational wise, the official organization Black Lives Matter, they have their own set of agendas that they're for, and some of it may be good, but some of it is their own agenda they're mixing in to kind of co-opt. Seize the time, like the Black Panthers used to say. They're seizing the time. But what they're seizing the time for is not 100% saving young Black men. They're they're pushing their own agenda out there. So it's just important that we put it all on the table and let the people know, because a lot of people, a lot of people just go out and then and they're willing to, especially rich white liberals, feel good about giving money out.
Right.
And it makes them feel good, like they're actually doing something. And I'm not saying that it's not a good thing to give money to people, but they'll give their organization a lot of money, but you ain't putting them really on the ground, working
the ground
for change.
level. Right.
And you have to understand, what the organization is about if you're going to give money to that organization. But, they may agree with it, and that's cool. But for us, the average person, we need to know that the organization, Black Lives Matter, is different. There's a difference there than just the general population that says Black Lives Matter. Right.
And I feel like oftentimes when something becomes popular, then you get the alternative intentions, so to speak, to piggyback off of it, or to try to even, some people or groups will try to use that to get their cause off, just because the Black Lives Matter is what's on everybody's lips at that particular moment.
Man, I'm telling you, because I've been out. I was out there before there was an official organization, Black Lives Matter. We go back to 2000. I'm not sure when exactly they started, 2015, 16, whenever it was. But I've been to rallies when, and I'm known in Charlotte. I'm an activist, but I'm not someone who throws myself, in the front always. I'm not going to force myself upon you. If I didn't organize the event, I'm still going to follow if I think it's a good cause.
Absolutely.
But I went to an event one evening with some of my brothers from the nation. We were there. They didn't invite us to speak, and we're known speakers and activists. But it was a dude in a dress speaking, and going on ranting about being all flamboyant, and raving about some stuff that really wasn't exactly about Black lives.
It wasn't about the cause.
It really wasn't nothing about a black man that just got killed.
Right.
And I felt out of place. I looked at me and the brother were looking at each other like, oh, here,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I understand that.
Welcome here, really. I mean,
yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Right.
Yeah. And so I was gonna ask you too, like, what's your feelings as far as like the most recent situations with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, to name a few? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the phrase Black Lives Matter was coined after the Trayvon Martin incident, if I'm not mistaken. But just in a totality, what is your viewpoint on the police brutality that we keep seeing recurring in our nation?
Well, the good thing is, we have video now.
Yeah.
Going back to Rodney King, that was probably the first time the video was shared on a mass scale like that, and you saw what they did then. But now we have cell phone video. But that's a good thing. For people to see it, I mean, to see the raw, ruthless actions of the officer. But there was an Asian guy standing there too, and he was just as guilty, because he just not stopping it.
Right.
But we have to get to a point where, I mean, of course, somebody's got a videotape, I guess, for evidence. But we got to get to a point where we're putting the phones down and putting our bodies
and doing something.
We got to put our bodies in between the officer
and that person
he's choking or wronging. Whether it means some of us have to die.
Yeah, because that's what it looked like with the Asian guy standing guard of Derek Chauvin while he's got his knee on George's neck. It's like the Asian guy was there, like if anybody tries anything, they got to get past him first. And I think the general public, sometimes you probably in such a state of shock, you don't really know what to do. But I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, it may come to a point where somebody may have to sacrifice themselves just to prevent that situation.
And it's coming to that point. And I would say, before I would send money to the official Black Lives Matter organization, I would send money to the Black Panthers who are carrying guns, carrying guns and meeting some of these people, because that's what it's going to take. I'm not trying to
incite a riot.
Yeah. Or start burning up towns. But what I'm saying is,
protection.
Power only
respects power.
If you have guarded men, if you have men with guns hanging out, patrolling your block, patrolling your people, chances are, the cops ain't gonna get out of hand. Chances are the Klan is not gonna come there and do anything stupid. Because even the cops, a lot of those cops are cowards.
Yeah. I think
so they can carry a gun and bully people.
Yeah, and what you hear a lot of times, oftentimes, is the guy coming up in school, he didn't have many friends, this and that. And I'm not saying that applies to all police, but I'm sure you do have those few that are like that, and they use that position to exercise power, and sometimes it's excessive,
Yes.
And before we advance any further, we do have a video of the George Floyd incident. And I'm sure you guys have seen it by now, but just to refresh your memories, or in case.
What do you want? I can breathe. I can breathe shit. Bro, get in the car, man. I will. Get in the car. I can't move. I can wipe the whole body, man. Get in the car. Mama. Get up and get in the car right. I can't.
Chauvin never takes his knee off of Floyd. Even as his eyes close, he appears to go unconscious.
Look at him. Get off of him now. What is wrong with you? What the? He got made.
Yeah. So it's and whatever crime was being committed, how big or how small, it's obvious the gentleman was subdued. He didn't have to lose his life, and that's sometimes where they go too far. If an arrest is necessary, just make the arrest. You don't have to do all of that, the extra stuff, exertion of power and taking people's lives at the same time.
Respect and professionalism is so important for police officers. I know several good police officers. Matter of fact, I was at the retirement party last night for our chief, and I haven't always agreed with him, but I've also worked behind closed doors to try to create some change with him. I've had some very candid and open conversations, and that's what it's about. We don't always have to agree, but if a police officer is respectful and professional, then, it creates something. It creates something in the community that, like I said, even though sometimes you may disagree with some policy or decision they may have made, but if they treat you with respect, that goes a long way.
Right. And just like any other day-to-day activities, we all as a people want respect, and the best way to get that respect is to lead with respect. And just with the whole Black Lives Matter, I think every creature that can feel emotion that's on this earth, where there's humans, animals, whatever, we all desire to be loved and accepted. So it's to reiterate what you said, Jabril, it's not that all of these other lives don't matter as well, and that's to be understood. The fact of the matter is it's the black lives that need the attention in relation to this whole police brutality thing and whatnot.
All right.
And we before were you going to say something? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just to continue on what you're asking about.
Sure.
George Floyd. I think things are a little different this time.
I was thinking that too.
I mean, these type of things really happen almost like every 6 months or so.
Yeah.
I know that, we go out, we protest, we do what we do for a couple of days. And sometimes even communities like Charlotte may have some, discussions with the police, community things, and nothing changes. We go back 6 months to happen. I think it's something different this time. It's like a worldwide thing is going on.
Right.
But I'm also a realist. So I'm not gonna jump all in and say, this is going to do it.
Right.
I think something is in the air. Something is changing.
Mm-hmm.
The realist part of me is just holding back a little bit and saying,
I understand.
Let's see what they're going to do with it, because just painting streets with Black Lives Matter,
it's not going to make a change.
Something like that. That ain't going to change nothing. I mean, it looks beautiful.
Yeah, and it brings awareness.
Yeah, it brings awareness, and art is definitely a key, just like music is definitely a key.
Correct.
A key for change. It's a catalyst for change. It's also a therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need a lot of therapy, because
yes,
if they knew how close we were to the edge, they would make some changes.
Yes. Therapy is important too, and we want people at home to feel like you don't feel like therapy is a bad thing. Therapy is a good thing. I got relatives that go to therapy, and basically it's a way just to unpack all your traumas, man, and deal with them. Because a lot of times we suppress them and we deal with them the wrong way, But hey, if some therapy is required, do so.
Let me say this: my therapy is music, so don't get it twisted.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, indeed. And speaking of music,
out the way.
Say what, Jabril?
I said Rona got to move out the way because my therapy.
Yeah, man. That's a whole nother thing. And I'm glad you said that, because when the George Floyd incident happened, we were already dealing with a nationwide pandemic. Well, not nationwide, international, a worldwide pandemic. And then here, in our country, then we have to deal with that on top of it. And you bringing up music, I took a few notes of artists who had political and social commentary in their material. Just go through this real quick. You got artists like Sam Cooke, Change Gonna Come, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, Michael Jackson, They Don't Care About Us, Public Enemy, Fight the Power. You got Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, James Brown, Donny Hathaway. So you got, artists using their platforms to get the message out that there is a social inequality going on here, so even, they've been putting that in the music for years and years and years. And like you said, music is a tool. It's a vehicle that so we're so fortunate that it brings people together. So at least through music, you have a common ground, a common understanding sometimes to have a further dialogue about the person you may be standing next to and things of that nature,
It was music that brought me here.
Really?
It was music that different kinds of music, hip hop, funk, R&B, that helped me become Muslim. It helped me become socially and politically active.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew it, because in 1991, there was an effort to dumb down and gangsterize
the music. Yeah.
But they didn't know. I became Muslim in 1991, so it was too late.
It was too late. You made it through the gap.
They said we can't have this. We can't have this.
Can't have it, man. Yeah, yes. So
coming in, so they changed it, because like I said, I grew up on R&B and funk, but when conscious hip hop came in the mid late 80s,
mm-hmm.
I mean, it was very powerful, and it wasn't just waking up young black kids; it was waking up young white kids as well.
Right.
The powers that be said, no, we got to dumb this stuff down.
Yeah,
we got to dope them, dumb them down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
this right here is going to change.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother agenda as far as the music selection that's required to make it to public consumption and things of that nature,
So Jabril, who were some of your early political heroes?
Well, Malcolm X, of course, and Martin Luther King. Both of them. I studied both of them, and I read both of them before I became Muslim and before I really got active. So they were the early ones, even though they were not alive. It was just stuff I was reading at the time. Now, currently, Dr. West is one of my guys.
Cornel West.
Who's that?
He's one of my guys now. I mean, I might not agree with him on thing that it comes out of his mouth. I mean, me and my wife don't agree on everything. You know what I'm saying? but he's my guy. You know, he's a funketeer. you know, funketeer, and he's going to bring it. And that's one of my current contemporary guys. I can roll with Dr. West.
Yeah, Cornel West, kid.
Cornel.
And even before the George Floyd incident, I think the most recent uproar in our nation was, the fact that Colin Kaepernick was kneeling to address police brutality, and of course that narrative got twisted, and it became about the national anthem and whatnot,
and the flag.
Excuse me, about the flag. I'm sorry. And I think we have a picture or a video of you, Jabril, kneeling, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's see what we got.
In the Queen City, some Panthers fans are showing support for Kaepernick. The group gathered outside Bank of America Stadium today before the game. Organizer Jabril Huff says the national anthem, flyovers, and military/war indoctrination have no place in sporting events.
The national anthem is laced in racism. People need to point it out. People need to make a call for justice, like Colin Kaepernick is making a call for justice for people of color against police brutality.
Huff says his organization gets mixed reaction, but he feels it is as American as it gets. He says he's standing up for freedom and liberty for all.
Yeah. So, what's your point of view in regards to what Colin was trying to do and how it got kind of twisted up in the media?
Well, he was doing it in a respectful way. I think he even consulted an Army veteran about how he should do it. Mm-hmm. So he was in a very respectable way. The thing is, sporting events have been used as a means to indoctrinate and advertise military. I mean, the NFL makes a lot of money off the U.S. Armed Forces for advertising. Mm-hmm. And me myself, I enjoy sports, but sports should be a form of escapism.
That's true.
I'm going to put the politics. I'm going to put everything behind me for 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to enjoy this game and forget about the outside world for a minute. The problem is, we have the flag all over the field. Right. We have flyovers. We have all this pseudo patriotism.
Mm-hmm. Very true.
So his primary purpose of kneeling was to bring attention to police brutality, which I'm right there with him. Right. But I've been sitting or avoiding the anthem since Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf did it. Mm-hmm. I mean, about over 20 years ago. Right. Because I got to thinking when he was doing it, I'm like, it's not necessary. I mean, unless you're doing an international sporting event like the Olympics or something, I can almost see the argument for it.
Yeah, I see your point.
We're all Americans here. If we're all Americans, mm-hmm. why do we have to drape the flag across the field and have the national anthem and do all the flyovers for what?
Mm-hmm. I see your point.
You're conditioning people's minds for war.
Mm-hmm.
Pseudo patriotism.
Mm-hmm.
The armed forces. I mean, yeah, we support the armed forces, but when the last time they fought for our rights?
Yeah.
When war for us.
Yeah.
When was the last time?
Very true.
If they ever did. So I'm just saying, I respect them, but I'm just saying, let's keep it real. So
I respect that.
I don't do the flag thing now. I do my own silent protest where I'm sitting. And, I've had rednecks behind me, hey, take your hat off and all this stuff. They don't know in Islam, we keep our hat on or a kufi or something out of respect.
Right.
But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, you talking during the national anthem is more disrespectful than me sitting down.
Right. Very true. Very true.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up. If you respect the anthem, you shut up and listen.
Yeah, very true.
I respect what's going on there. I will not be screaming or nothing like that. I'm just not getting down with your anthem, pledging.
Right. Yeah, and people should also just have the understanding that we all come from, you know, different walks of life, and that means, you know, my religion may be different from yours or whatever, you know, but at the same time, it doesn't give you a right at a sporting event to try to police the next man. The best thing we could do as a people, and sometimes we don't know how to do, is mind our business sometimes, you know what I mean? Everybody feels like they have validity to say something about what you choose to do. But I feel like as long as you come in peace and you're not being disruptive, nobody should, you know, have anything to say. Everybody is entitled to their own personal choices.
Yeah. If we are all Americans, and if those troops actually fought for our freedom. I mean, the first thing they want to say is they fought for your freedom. Okay, if they fought for my freedom, then why don't I have freedom to do what I'm
Yeah, no, good question. Good question.
It doesn't make sense. You know, they fought for your okay. Am I free? Can I do what I please?
Right, absolutely. And you had a brief experience at the Trump rally in Rock Hill. Just give us a little bit about how that transpired, what the events that led up to this particular situation right here.
Well, actually, the worst experience was in Aiken, but we can start off with the Rock Hill since you showed the picture.
Sure.
Rock Hell, or you know, as we should say, Rock Hell. As soon as I got in there, right, Trump's people, his minions, his security, they remember me from Aiken.
Okay, so you already had
They were already trying to get me to leave. They were like, "Are you here as a Trump supporter?" I'm like, "I'm here as an undecided voter." But
okay,
they were trying to get me to leave, right? And even his head security guy came to me and just pretty much told me I had to leave. I'm like, "No, I do not have to leave." And let me get a shout out to the chief of police down there in Rock Hill, because he came to me and I was like, "Oh boy, here we go." He said, "No, it's not like that." He talked to me because he knew me from the Aiken. You know, they watched the video. He said, "Look, you don't have to leave, but you know, if you get up and say something or whatever," he said, "you know, we will have to escort you out, but you have a right to be here." So I said, you know, so I felt pretty good after talking to the chief. So I sat down in the seat, and you know, I was patiently waiting for the right time for him to say something about Muslims or something. And before I got up, I mean, in the aisle next to me, there was already some rednecks over there talking about getting the Muslims out of here.
Oh man.
He had Koopy and everything. So I mean, he knew I was Muslim when I was right there at the corner.
Yeah.
You know, I just had to sit there for a minute, you know, and patiently, you know, wait for my time and not really get involved with this guy, because I got involved with him, you know, it'd been another thing.
Right.
I waited till his time. I think he was talking about immigrants or something.
Okay.
Anyway, it was the time to stand up. So I stood up, smiled at him, I pointed my finger. You know, just like Malcolm, you know, Malcolm pointed his finger. I felt Malcolm come through me right there.
Yeah, Malcolm and Martin.
Yeah. I don't know Martin that did this one, but you know,
true.
Yeah. Speaking of Aiken, Jabril, I think you made the cover Newsweek for your Aiken thing, didn't you?
No. I made a lot of papers, so I made a lot. Of papers.
But that was I saw that one. I mean, you had like 10 people trying to grab you.
I know we have a photo.
I think we might photo. Yeah.
We got a photo.
Yeah,
it's coming.
We have a few photos.
I think
of you getting dragged out of places.
Okay, that was the one in Rock Hill.
That's Rock
Hill. That guy in Rock Hill. That's Trump. That was Trump's security guy, and he ran up to me. Right when he ran up to me, he said, because he'd already talked to me earlier, trying to get me to leave. He said, "I told you not to do nothing or something." So I pushed him back. You know, he grabbed me, so I pushed him back. So that's when the cops came and got me and cuffed me, because I'm defending myself. And they don't. I was like, "Why do you have me in cuffs?" Right? I was like, "Why do you have me in cuffs?"
Right.
I said, "George." He said, "Resisting arrest." I'm like, "Resisting arrest?" I said, "I'm
arrest
protecting
for what?" Yeah.
From Trump's guy, and you know, and that just goes to show how easy they would trump up a charge. But
no pun.
When we got
no pun.
When went outside, he called the chief, who I'd already talked to earlier that night. Chief comes out there and he says, "Uncuff him, escort him to his car." You know, but these guys who don't get out that much and don't get much fun in their hotel, you know, they thought they were going to do something with me, but he said no.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit just about your Muslim faith and I guess the way that, you know, Islam is painted or has been painted like in the,
and how you feel about Minister Louis Farrakhan.
That too.
I'll do the easy first. The people want to run away from. That's easy for me. I love Mr. Farrakhan. I consider him my brother. I've been to him since, you know, late 80s. Of course, like I said before, with Cornel West, I don't agree everything he says, but there's something about Mr. Farrakhan. You know, it's something about him, and I do have much love and respect for him. You know, he's in his later years now. I don't know how much longer he'll be around, but I listen to him. Since, as a matter of fact, before I became Muslim, I wrote him a letter, but he never wrote me back. I never heard back from him. I used to hang out with the brothers at the Clean and Fresh Powerhouse, the nation used to own. So I have a long relationship with them, and I like the direction that the nation is going in under his leadership.
The minister loves Earth, Wind, and Fire, so he's not all bad.
Yeah.
In fact, he does catch concerts, and he is enamored with Verdine and has had him over for dinner before.
Awesome.
And to his home, Verdine said he just lives a normal life at home. His kids all around, and they talk about, you know, regular subjects, fashion, music. But yeah, so anyway.
And he's on my short list to meet. I've met, you know, many of the folks that, you know, I wanted to meet pretty much, but he's on a very short list that I would like to sit down and speak with, especially since I wrote him that letter years ago before I became Muslim, and you know, I really feel a connection with him.
So what is your did you meet Dick Gregory one time?
I met Dick Gregory several times.
Several times. What was your thoughts of Dick Gregory? Oh, there's a picture right there.
Yeah.
Dick Gregory will give you that uncut funk. You know, he was that guy that was going to tell it. And you know, as he got older, you know, he would ramble a little bit, but if you would stick with it, he would drop jewels every time that you heard it.
Yeah.
And every time he came through. The first time I met him was at an anti-war rally in DC, and he was just a regular guy out there, you know, with us hanging out, you know, during the anti-war rally. But then later on, he would come through Charlotte several times, you know, for comedy shows. But his comedy shows are shows that make you think more than laugh, like a Dave.
Yeah, I was thinking Dave Chappelle too. Yeah,
you're gonna think and falling over laughing. I mean, I like to laugh, but I like to think more than I like. You know, and I really appreciated his presence, and like I said, I didn't miss the opportunity to sit with him. I met him several times.
Nice, nice.
And also the activist / comedian DL Hughley.
DL Hughley.
Yeah.
DL the same way. DL's comedy it's kind of like that too. I mean, DL makes you think a lot. I mean, you're gonna laugh with DL, but you're gonna think a lot. I like this.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. And just the second part of my question from a moment ago, I was just asking you just to address like the misconception in the media in regards to Islam.
Well, we know for years that, you know, Islam terrorism is something that it seemed like it's been joined at the hip, but it was by media, by people who just wanted to paint that picture. After the fall of the Soviet Union, after the fall of communism, they had to find a new boogeyman. And the new boogeyman was Islam. They call it Islamic terrorism, Islamic fundamentalism. They throw a lot of different names.
Right.
But America needed a new boogeyman, and Islam, in different terms.
Right.
Fundamentalism. So that's really how we got to where we are now.
Right.
But
right.
I think after 9/11, more Muslims slowly began to come stand up for themselves and get more active, and get involved with the community more, show that Islam does not support terrorism.
Right.
Now Islam does support defending yourself. We are not a religion of pacifists.
Of course.
I did an interview with one lady one day, and because I was speaking out against the war, and she introduced me as a pacifist, I right away I said, I'm not a pacifist. I believe in protecting ourselves.
Absolutely.
I don't believe in unjust war. I believe war has to be a last resort, not a first resort, or not for oil or some some hidden agenda.
Right. Which is usually about money and power.
Yes. And Islam is values life so much that even if we go to war, trees have rights. You can't cut or burn a tree down unjustly. So, there's a lot of ignorance about Islam and Muslims that people have out there. If they would just, meet Muslims, talk with them, study for themselves.
Yeah.
It would probably shock them. I was in Starbucks a couple years ago, and I took a picture of it because on the back of the guy's neck, he had a tattoo, and in Arabic it said "kafir," which in a loose translation, that's not even a good translation, it means infidel. And a lot of these people who don't like Muslims are really bigoted against Muslims. You'll see them at gun shows and stuff like that. These rednecks, infidel. They have T-shirts and hats with infidel on them, and they're proud. The translation of kafir is really more like to cover or to conceal the belief in God and reject God. So most of these that call themselves kafirs or infidels,
they don't believe in God.
They are not kafirs. And as a Muslim, I can't even call them one if they believe in God. See how that is? How much ignorance is? I can't even call them. I can call them some other things. But if they believe in God,
right.
You call them that.
Right.
And to educate themselves, because it's a lot of ignorance. A lot of it's based on bigotry. A lot of these guys, they just don't like Muslims, and a lot of them in Afghanistan and Iraq. And they come back and they tattoo, infidel on them. Yeah.
And I'd say that, that's why I wanted to ask you that. So, at least for those that are watching, get a clearer understanding. And we, again, like you encourage them, do the research yourself sometimes. Don't just go off of everything that you hear or how it's portrayed in the media.
Yeah. I mean, as far as terrorism goes and bloodshed and bombs, ain't nobody done more than our government. And that's a loose quote from Martin Luther King as well.
Yeah.
He said, just in different words, he said the same thing. He looked at it, said, his government is the number one purveyor of violence in the world. Martin Luther King.
Right. And all of that.
I mean, let's, if you want to talk about it, okay, let's talk about it. No, talk about some guys in the mountains in Afghanistan running around with, a couple of rocket launchers and AK-47. I mean, they pale in comparison to the terrorism that our government has done.
I agree.
Not by anything. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree. And it all trickles down, whether it be military or what have you, all the way down to the police. And then you have that, the brutality that comes from that. So it's all intertwined, for lack of a better term. It's all interwoven into our system. And that's where we wanted to address these issues today, man. And, Wow, it's been a great conversation. I know we're almost out of time. I hate to cut it, but I know we're running out. We actually a little over our time, but we're gonna keep it moving here. Real quick, Jabril, what do you suggest to the people at home, to as far as the healing process, with us as a nation dealing with, systematic racism, or what can we do to play our part into sparking that change or continuing the change that we feel we on the cusp of?
I think it was Malcolm who said, and this is a loose quote from Malcolm, but he was saying, like, if you got a knife stuck in me and you pull it out, 2 or 3 inches, it's still stuck in me, then that's not progress, pretty much. And that's pretty much where we are now. But what I would suggest to the people is stay engaged, stay involved. Don't go back home and get comfortable, in the next couple of weeks and thinking things don't going to get better just because we painted Black Lives Matter on the streets. The system. I mean, I'm not one who believes we need to do away with the police department completely, because they do serve a purpose, and we have to have some police, but
the right ones.
So it's systemic and racist and brutal at the core. We have to do a lot of work to correct it, and that's going to mean changing some laws. That's not going to be just having some community discussions, and people feel good for 5 minutes. We want to use the law, so they will have they'll have to answer if they, the use of force. The use of force bar now is so low that that they can. I mean, they can kill you by mistake, and get away with it because the bar is so low for them. Now, some police departments have tried to raise the bar for their own department, but if their officer doesn't reach that level, they still can't get fired.
Wow.
Or go to jail or anything else. That's just window dressing. So the laws will change in this country. I mean, that means a national movement to change the laws when it comes to the use of force.
I agree. That's an excellent idea because they have to be held accountable.
That's more important than funding Black Lives Matter organization or painting streets, even though some of those things make people feel good. But we need to change the law. It was Martin Luther King who said, the law might not make a man love me, but it might stop him from killing me. And he thought that was very important.
I like that.
So they say a lot of these police officers, more than we know about, have possibly 20 to 40 transgressions against them through the years, every department, and it's all hidden. So there's got to be some way that comes to light, or they have to deal with that first.
Yes,
there's
indeed.
So many different levels they have in police departments within to protect them from the outside. So, and then even when, say, a chief knows he has a bad cop, it's not easy for him to get rid of that cop.
Well, they've got strong unions too.
They have strong unions, and in places they don't have unions, they have other things in place that make it hard for them to get fired, or even if they take them from one place, okay, they're still going to have a job. They might have to be behind a desk for a while. But I'm saying it's hard for them to clean the closet, even when they know they have bad cops.
Yeah, and again, because that system has been in place for so many years, So we do have some catching up to do as far as the changing of laws and things of that nature. So people, you definitely need to get out and vote. That's where you can, your voice can be heard the loudest in making these changes, as well as being aware and being educated and put in no pun, but policing yourself as far as your day to day and how you treat others. And we put on this earth, to love each other, and as far as let's look at each other as a whole, as the human race, and not so much from a aspect of division, All right. So I think, go ahead, Shelly. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I think we're gonna open up because we over our time, but we're gonna open up for a little Q&A, I believe, real quick. Take a few questions from the audience.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I saw a great one.
You did?
Yes, it's from Milton.
I missed them all.
It's from Milton Crow.
Okay, I got all my devices. I haven't been able to keep up.
I'm not sure if Tazz can find this, but it's at 6:35 p.m. He says,
okay,
when will Black Lives matter to us? And Black people, please stop killing each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another good point too.
Very, very good point.
Yeah. So just the same as I'm gonna let Jabril. Yeah. He's our guest. Go ahead.
Well, as a matter of fact, we had a march down Beatty's Ford Road the other Friday, and it was in response to quote unquote black on black crime. I don't want to fall into using that term, but I'm responding to what he said.
Sure.
It was a young black kid. I think he was 14 years old. He got killed right outside the arcade over there. And come to find out, after I went over there, I was talking to some guy, and I found out that the guy was up to no good. I think he had shot somebody earlier, or he was gang banging. So he was into foolishness behavior, but he still didn't deserve to die.
Of course not.
So, but we had a march to bring attention to that, and try to spotlight these places we have in the neighborhood that are houses for death. Even some of our churches in the neighborhood, to be quite frankly, are houses of death, because they come in on Sunday and you don't see them again. You don't see the pastor or none of these people out in the community trying to help these people. Trying to do their own policing and help these people. Them up. They have these big churches up there, but you don't see them. You don't see them out helping the people.
Right.
But our march was to focus on that kind of killing, but we did stop on the way back, because on Father's Day there was 4 deaths, because of the block party they had.
Okay, yeah.
But that march, that whole march was really about, Black Lives Matter to Black folks. Really, answering what the guy was saying. But you don't see marches that great when stuff like this happens, and that's a criticism that the movement gets. That you don't see outrage when it's a gang killing or some drug dealers shoot each other or something. You don't see the outrage that you do when the police. But in defense of that, the police are supposed to be held to a higher standard, because they're supposed to protect and serve the people, not kill the people. So in defense, I will say that the police are supposed to be held to a higher standard than the guys doing no good on the block. But still,
makes sense.
We should still be just as concerned with those lives as we are when the police kill somebody.
Yeah, and be active in your communities. It all boils down to good and evil. So just be, if you're a good person, be active in your community, get to know folks, and especially these youngsters, man, they need, role models or what have you. So we all have to take it upon ourselves to give back in that aspect as well.
Yes.
That's right.
Yep. I think we had another question. I tend to ramble. Can you pop it back up, Tazz? I think you had another question that came up. We take a few more, and we don't want to occupy you guys whole evening. Thank you to those in the UK who stayed up past bedtimes.
Absolutely.
That's my mom. Hey, Mom, I love you.
Hey, Francis, how you doing, Miss Harden?
Police are to serve the people and not kill them. Yes, and shout out to my uncle James Dixon, who's the sheriff of Chesterfield County, back where I was born. He's doing an excellent job. Go ahead.
Shout out to Chesterfield County. I was born in Chesterfield.
Oh, word. Okay, and I know you was down. I saw your Instagram the other day when I commented you was down in Sherrod.
Yeah, but see, my feet never touched the ground, so it's really hard for me to claim Chesterfield.
Yeah.
So, my feet never touched the ground until I got to North Carolina. So
yeah, I understand. Yeah.
I ain't going to deny what's on my birth certificate.
Absolutely. Okay, another question.
Yeah. Hey, we have racist people in the UK, but it's normally the idiots. So here in the UK, Ken, we love everyone for what they are, not the color of their skin.
Absolutely. That's Ian over there at the studio, and that when we went over there in 2018.
Yes.
What's up, Ian? What's up, mate?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you all. I'm not able to see everything right now. I'm using all my devices for tonight, so I haven't been able to keep up with who's on and who's saying what. So thank you to everyone. Maybe one more question. I know we about 20 minutes over our normal time. We'll take maybe one more question. And we hope everyone learned something, man. I definitely did. And it's always good to have these, even though these are tough conversations, to be transparent, they are tough conversations, but you can't expect to grow unless you do things that make you uncomfortable.
And very educational. And I know we've all had an amazing time with Jabril. And so we just want to say to the audience, if you like the show and want to see more of them, please leave us a comment.
Yes, indeed.
And we'll take it from there.
Yes, indeed.
I think we had just one more for Jean.
Yes.
Yeah.
In France, shout out to France.
We have a huge level of racism in France too. It's a sad reality.
Can I respond?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's true, and let me say this: many of the Muslims who have immigrated to France, instead of France really taking them in and let them be in a part of the society, they kind of ostracize and put them in ghettos and things. And so the they like to flip it, in the media, that it's the Muslims acting foolish and whatnot. Maybe some of them do sometimes, but what I'm saying, they have alienated them, make them stay in ghettos, and have a strong anti-Muslim sentiment in France, believe me. And they're very bigoted. So France likes to play the sympathy card, like the poor little sister and all this stuff. But no, they are really racist. They're very Islamophobic. I've been, I saw some of it. But like I said, they haven't done a good job of being like a melting pot.
I understand the same thing goes on in the Asian countries too, though. They want to keep them out of the stores and, blame a lot of things on them. So it must be around the world to a degree.
And the colorism factor too. If you have darker skin, you're going to get blamed for whatever goes on. I mean, that's pretty prevalent in a lot of countries.
That is.
Interesting. And we're going to take one more question on top of the one more question. There's my cousin, Katina Gillespie Bridges. What can we do to better police relations?
Well, I've been invited to sit with the chief, and behind closed doors, we work on a lot of things that we like to bring out to the community. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But what the CMPD has done, and they still have a lot of work to do, but they have had a lot of community engagement, a lot of community events where the chief comes out, you can ask him any question. He's out in the communities, in barbershops. They do barbershop talks. They go to churches, and they go out with the community people, so you can ask them anything, and not just be standoffish. Like in some cities, you're never going to see your chief. You're never going to see any brass, mixed with the common people. You're never going to see that. Charlotte is different. Charlotte still has its issues. I mean, we have police killings sometimes. Right. We still have our issues. Don't get me wrong. But they do have some things in place to make it a little better, where you can sit down with the officer and get to know them. You can ask them some questions about why is this happening, things like that. So they're not like just totally isolated from people.
Yeah.
In cities, that's the case.
Yeah, and I would also just suggest to the police officers, to get familiar with the areas that you patrol. Maybe get out the car sometime, introduce yourself to the people who are out there in the neighborhood. Just kind of build a rapport. So if there is a potential conflict, then you don't have that apprehension that's there. That kind of leads to those sorts of things. So I think it works on both sides. I think as the community, we should become more active in things that are going on that include the police, and then the police should be more active within the community.
And our police department has like a ambassador program where they have certain police that are sent out even during marches, you know, they have these ambassadors that are sent out to talk and engage people along the way and treat them effectively. The problem is every police officer is not an ambassador.
Right.
When the go down, you know, when the sun goes down, then some of these guys that come out are not ambassadors. You know, they're guys that's ready to hit somebody or you know, spray somebody, you know, with some tear gas. So you have like we had a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
But they do have the program, and it does. I've seen it, and it's good, but it's only one level.
Yeah. Wow. I'm gonna just take a moment to we wanted to roll some names in the credits at the end of the show. We didn't get that quite accomplished, so I just want to mention some names of some people who have lost their lives, whether it be the systematic racism or police brutality. Just a short list, real quickly. We want to mention Tanisha Anderson, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, Gabriela Navarez, Akai Gurley, Eric Garner, Janisha Fonville, Freddie Gray, Michelle Cuso, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Botham Jean, Stefan Clark, Aura Rosser, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd.
Can I add one more?
Sure.
Jonathan Farrell.
Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a quick list. So yeah, if y'all wanted to add anything else, you know, feel free.
I got involved. I've got involved with that. I went to court. You know, when of course, in that case, the officer was arrested. You know, I went to court. I got close to the family. I know the family now, and you know, we did several demonstrations for them. And
All right. Well, folks, I think this is going to wrap our episode for today. Ken, who we got coming on tomorrow?
Oh, man, tomorrow we're back to our regular That's My Story with singer-songwriter, producer, Jingle Man.
Jingle Man.
I like, you know, I call it bubblegum music.
yeah, that happy stuff.
Happy stuff. Mr. Ron Dante will be with us tomorrow.
Great, man. So Jabril, we thank you, man, for coming on and being our special guest tonight for our special episode, Black Lives Matter. Hopefully our audience, you guys, you know, log off with a little deeper understanding of what all of that means, what you can do to play your part, and hopefully we as a human race can progress and move forward, and you know, things become a little more of a level playing field. So to speak. Before we sign off of here, we want to encourage you guys to make sure you go over to YouTube, make sure you like, subscribe to our official Chairman of the Board page, and so you can get that new content, share it with your friends, and you know, there it is, the official Chairman of the Board page. And we will be right back on tomorrow night, 6 p.m. again, like Ken said, with Ron Dante. So we're a little over our time. We're going to keep this part brief. Thank y'all so much for tuning in. Please spread the positivity. Stay safe. We're still in the midst of the pandemic. You know, stay safe. Follow those guidelines. Again, thank you to Jabril. Thank you to Ken. Thank you to Shelly. Thank you to Tazz behind the scenes, doing all of the visuals and everything for us.
Register to vote.
Yes, indeed. All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Jabril, stay on the line. We'll see everybody else.